We're good now. All right, boys, watch how we do it now. Watch it now.
October Red Boxing in the gym, Rathbone Boxing Gym in London with Daley Perales, who is a professional boxing coach. Daley, I've been in the gym today with you, and we've had in George Mitchell and Boxstar Lion, Jamal Akay. Is it Akay?
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about those two fighters to start off with, because you and I can talk till the cows come home about boxing.
Yeah.
But I just want you to concentrate for now on those two fighters, and we'll start first with Jamal.
Jamal is a straight up, I like to describe him as a very technically gifted fighter, but has real bad intentions. He displays great boxing IQ to the highest level, but when he opens up with venom. And that's what I like about him. I've always liked that about him from day one. And so it was easy for me to coach him from day one. All it was is just channeling everything that he has into how I think it should be. And he's got a boxing brain as well. He's done boxing for years, so it's just about our boxing heads coming together and making him a complete fighter. Because one thing I like to do with my fight, any fighter that trains with me, I give them the responsibility to go away and improve themselves. So it's not about just the work we do in the ring, it's about what work are you doing outside the ring. There might be a drill, there might be a certain scenario, a punch or whatever, and they come back into the gym and they say, "Coach, what do you think about this?" That's music to my ears. I like when they take responsibility like that, and then we can figure it out while we're in that ring and go from there.
Your relationship with Jamal, you've known him for quite a long time. You mentioned that you two used to work together back at All Stars Gym. Tell us about that relationship and how it developed, and obviously him coming back to you now.
Well, we've always been in the gym together, so he's always seen my work anyway. So it was just an easy transition. I've known his family for years. You know, they've known me. I've been in that gym. Actually, when I was a pro boxer, I used to use All Stars as like a second kind of home for us to get in, you know, extra training. So I do my work in the daytime, but if I felt like doing an extra session in the evening, I would always go to All Stars. They had good fighters there as well, so I could do some sparring. So I've always known them from that era. So over the years, as I transitioned into being a professional boxing coach, I know he's very smart. He probably would have sat back, you know, seen the way I coach everyone else, and eventually he was just like, "Let's do it." It wasn't a thing like, "Will you coach me?" It was just like, you know, a natural thing for us just to be together and work together.
And while we're here in this part of the conversation, let's get to know a little bit about you. You were a fighter yourself. Tell us a little bit about you, how you got into boxing, and then the transition you made into training. I know we've had this conversation before, but I feel it's the right time to bring that about again before we continue to talk about your fighters.
Well, I come from a family of boxers. Two of them, you know, were champions. One of them was a very, you know, high-level fighter. He could have gone even further, in my opinion. But he was a very talented fighter, national champion. He won the lot as an amateur, a good professional, won a few championships as a professional. And then my other brother was actually a famous journeyman. His story is a very interesting story because he was a prospect under Barry Hearn, signed to Barry Hearn at the time. And he had to leave being a prospect because obviously being a prospect you have to wait around, you know, to make the big money. He couldn't afford that because he had to look after his baby son on his own. So he went down the journeyman route, fought a lot of big names like Carl Froch, Howard Eastman, Freeman Barr, Ryan Rhodes, a lot of big names. And he was one of, because he wasn't really meant to be a journeyman, he was one of those dangerous journeymen that would take you out at any time because he had insane power. So he was a kind of journeyman that you had to, you know, do I really need to fight him? or should I just leave that journeyman alone? He was that type of journeyman. So I think growing up, watching them, it made me want to get into boxing. I got into boxing. I remember coming to Finchley Amateur Boxing Club, and after the first session, they were like, "Have you boxed before?" It only took me a month before I had my first fight, because they couldn't believe I had no fights. But my brother threw me in the deep end from a young age. Hanging around with my brothers, being in their gyms, they actually threw me in the deep end with training and sparring national champions when I never even had any fights. So when I went into amateur boxing gym, took me about a month to have my first fight, and it went from there. You know, I won a few championships, as a national championship as an amateur. Then I turned pro and was an undefeated pro. But, you know, I suffered an injury. That got in the way. But I don't want to sit around and say it's all just about the injury. There's a lot of personal things that got in the way as well. I had kids at a young age as well, so I had to, you know, work and all that kind of thing. But you know what? Even though I was a great fighter and I could have been a world champion, it's probably a blessing that all that happened. I tried to come back. The injury wouldn't allow me to come back. I even went to America. I was doing well over there. I was going to be on a Golden Boy promotion show, and then the injury came back. But as I said, it was a blessing, because I think I found what I was destined to be, which is a professional boxing coach. And I keep the same mentality, the same vision. World champion. As a fighter, okay, it couldn't happen, but I keep that same goal. I'm going to produce world champions. So that's the mentality, and that's the mentality I have with any fighter that wants to train with me. If you haven't got that mentality with me, if you ain't got that mentality that you want to be the best, then I can't train you. You know what I mean? So that's it.
Talk to me about that mentality, because you, like you said, you could have become a world champion. You had aspirations and dreams. You were thrown in the deep end by your brothers from the beginning. Your mindset is, I'm going to be a champion. I'm going to be the boxer here. That injury came and said, no, you're not. That mindset, you were still pushing through. Like you said, opportunities came up in America. The injury came back again and said, no, you're not. How did you then come to terms with the fact that, okay, this is probably not my calling, however, I'm not going to sit at home, I'm not going to sulk, I'm going to pay it forward, I'm going to create world champions? Talk to me about that mindset.
I mean, I'm very strong anyway, my mind, because of things I've gone through in my past. You know, things, I don't have to go through it now. People know about my story. I had a really tough upbringing, but that's given me a strong mindset. Anytime something knocks me down, it doesn't keep me there for long. I'm always battling, I'm always coming through on the other side. But I can't take all the credit for getting through that episode. Behind every man is a great woman. So it was actually my wife what was like, listen, okay, that's done, but you're not going to sit around and just work in a normal job. This is what you're meant to do. We might struggle for a while, but you're going to do this because this is your passion, so just go for it. So she actually gave me that little boost to actually, okay, you know, I'm going to put all my, you know, heart and soul into becoming the best professional boxing coach I can. And that's what I demand of myself. I don't demand being second best. There's nothing more than I love. It's not about ego. It's just about, I work my arse off every day to be able to speak with confidence about where I'm going and where I want to get these fighters. But there's nothing more than I love that when my fighters, because I know the work we put in, that when we go for sparring, for example, and I'm up against these, you know, named coaches that have already made a mark, you know what I mean? I love it. I love it when I can just outthink, you know, their strategy, you know, their game plan, their tactics. put my stamp across things to win that spar or win a fight, no matter what that's what I demand of myself. I mean, I don't like even losing at bowling with my kids, you know what I mean? So I demand a very, very high standard of myself. And as I said, if those fighters don't meet those standards, then I can't train them, you know what I mean? Because for me, I can teach boxing, that's the easy part. I've got a load of knowledge when it comes to boxing. I'm still learning, everyone still learns. I don't care how great you are, you're still learning as you're going along. But I've got the knowledge, so teaching boxing is the easy part. What I can't teach is, you know, someone having that heart and that grit, that if things go bad, you know what I mean, they won't quit, you know what I mean? And that's what I am. I don't quit for nothing.
So basically, it's just about having that winning mindset.
See you later, man.
And keeping that winning mindset and transferring that winning mindset that you had as a fighter to now move on to your fighters.
And my life, you know what I mean? I'm a winner in life. All the stuff I've been through, so all those experiences, you know, that all comes into play when I'm doing all this kind of thing. I don't accept quitting. I don't accept quitting. If I sniff that from a fighter, I will lose motivation as a coach to even want to train you. You know what I mean? So.
And we move on to your fighters then. Your style of training, obviously we've seen, I've been in the gym with you a couple of times, and you seem to be one of these coaches that is quite meticulous with their training and meticulous on drills, meticulous on the finer detail of throwing those shots, of moving around the ring, teaching your fighters to develop that boxing IQ, defensive thinking, not just about pressure, but what they're going to do when something's coming back. Talk to us about that style. I've said that you've got this creeper style. We've spoke about it before, but you tell me about your style.
I mean, I just want my fighters to have an all-round understanding of, you know, fighting in itself, you know. Boxing ain't street fighting, it's an art. So you need to be able to teach that art and channel it in a way where they're gonna go out and produce the goods. And not just go out there just to throw punches because you're trying to throw punches because you're fighting another person, you know what I mean? It's like a game of chess, it's very technical. So it's hard to describe my style. What I like to do though, when a fighter comes to me, I assess their style because I don't ever want to take away what they're naturally good at. If I take away what they're naturally good at, then I'm taking away that personality and that one thing or two things, three things that makes them great. And the reason why I want to train them in the first place. So if someone comes to me, for example, that fights with their hands down, and I can see they naturally are good fighting with their hands down, they're slick with their head movement, and they're better at avoiding shots with that kind of style, why am I going to tell them to put their hands up constantly? Now it's just about understanding when to have your hands down and when to have your hands up in the right moments. So keeping that style of theirs, but taking it to a level that they've never seen before, making them an all-round complete fighter. Can they dance when they want to dance? Can they have good head movement? Can they catch shots? Can their hands be in the right place at the right moment? It's about teaching everything, every scenario, thinking about all the different scenarios you're gonna face and adversities you're gonna face when you're in that ring. That's what I teach. I don't watch other coaches. I admire other coaches and I take inspiration from other coaches. Like my inspiration is Emmanuel Stewart, Customato. But I don't watch them for their pad work, obviously. There's not much pad work on them anyway, but I watch them for this. How they talk to their fighters, how they get across their information to their fighters. That's my way of coaching. Get into the fighters' heads, where they trust you enough where they believe it themselves and can go out and apply it. You know, personality. Can you get to them in a way where you know it's not so simple as just putting on pads and just going 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. You know what I mean? If I tell them to shoot a 1, 2, and then I go and hit their body, and they catch it, and then they throw an uppercut, left hook, straight, right behind it. Okay, if I'm doing this over and over and over again, it might look fancy, but the reason behind, the repetition behind it and the philosophy behind it, you might be in a situation where you're on the rope just for 1 second. Someone shoots to your body, automatically you're going to react to it, bang, bang, and you might only come back with 1 shot or 2 shots. But because you've been doing it over and over again, it becomes second nature to you. It's repetition. It's just, a lot of these coaches have to understand the philosophy behind it. You see a lot of people teaching that kind of pad work, or doing that kind of pad work to fighters that shouldn't even be doing that kind of pad work. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't suit them whatsoever.
Well, this is the argument, because it's really good doing that type of pad work if your fighter has the IQ to understand why you're doing it.
Why you're doing it.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you're calling the shots. When you're doing pad work, you're calling the shots. That is not a fighter coming at you with random shots.
Yeah.
You are calling the shots. The fighter has to have the IQ to understand why they're doing those moves. Like you said, on the ropes, just for 1 second.
Exactly.
They're coming at them with that body shot, reacting with an uppercut, which is in the drills. But is it fair to say that a lot of fighters, sorry, I won't say a lot of fighters, is it fair to say that some fighters don't understand that? So they're doing it, they're doing the pad work, it's repetition, repetition, but when they're getting in the ring and the shots are coming at them, they haven't got that IQ to understand how to defend back off it.
Of course, yeah.
We can move on to defence anyway.
Of course they don't understand it, because a lot of modern day fighters that want to be fighters, all they're seeing is Floyd Mayweather. And they see Floyd Mayweather, automatically they think, I can do that. Oh, they go in sparring, trying to do shoulder rolls, but they don't even know how to shoulder roll properly.
We've seen this.
You know? And then they're wondering why they're getting hit so much. Oh, wait a minute, Floyd does this though, he doesn't get hit. It's because you don't understand it. You don't know, the technique that's involved behind it, the philosophy behind it. You can't just do that style, and because Floyd's doing it, you think you can do it. You know what I mean? There's different styles for a reason, otherwise we'll all be robotic.
We see fighters that struggle when they're being clinched, that the clinch is coming, usually because maybe the fighter's on the back foot and they're just trying to zap the energy out of their opponent. But you have taught, I saw it today with George, you're teaching him how to nullify that. Talk to me, I don't need to explain.
Well, there's, on Mike Tyson's podcast, there's a thing that he said, he goes, I'm a student of war.
I'm a fucking student of war. I know all the warriors from Charlemagne, Achilles, the #1 warrior of all warriors. From then Alexander, Napoleon, I know them all. I read them all, I studied them all. I know the art of fight, I know the art of war. That's all I ever studied.
So, for example, some things I teach is not necessarily from boxing. I come across a lot of different combat sports where I'm watching it and I'm thinking, you know what? That will benefit in the boxing ring.
A lot of us, the fans, some of the casuals, sit at home writing comments on YouTube and don't realise the real effort that goes into boxing.
Yeah.
To me, there's boxers and there's boxers with IQ. There's a difference.
There is a difference.
People can go in and fight, and people can be heavy-handed. They can take out fighters, but have you got that IQ? And to me, the real IQ comes into it, and correct me if I'm wrong, is when you've got to work on your defence.
Yeah, defence is, for me, the jab and defence is a priority to me. As I said, this ain't street fighting. This is hit and not get hit. So if I can get my fighters to, make them miss, then you know what's coming next, and you're going to make them pay. So it's about getting that defense right, and that's with the hands, not just the head movement. That's with hands, that's with holding, that's with having smart feet, that's with knowing your distance, the right kind of distance. Some people don't even understand distance.
Distance is tricky.
Yeah.
Distance is tricky, and you're right. A lot of people don't understand.
But you know
distance.
what? Like what you said some people going in there just to, fight, and they haven't really got that boxing IQ. When I'm still young enough to kind of get in there with my fighters and spar with them technically. That's one thing that benefits my fighters. I'm still lightning quick, and I've still got, actually, if I was to make a comeback in boxing now, I couldn't, but if I was to make a comeback in boxing now, I'd be 10 times better than
what you was when you started, yeah.
Yeah, because of the knowledge. Knowledge is power. So I'd be 10 times better. So I always say to this fight, when you're getting in the ring, when that bell rings, okay, what are you actually looking at when you're in front of someone? Are you just
That's
looking simply just to throw shots at their head? Because when the way I teach my fighters, I teach them to look, your peripheral view, look at everywhere. Does their shoulder move in a certain way? Is their feet positioned in a certain way? Does their chest flex in a certain way? Is their head put in a certain way? Is their chin in a certain way? Is their eyes looking in a certain way?
So you can anticipate what's coming.
Anticipation is key, because if you can anticipate what someone's doing, you know what I mean, then the rest is easy.
It is a true art. But we got to push back onto you fighters. We were talking about Jamal and George. Jamal, you said he's quite technical. You've known him for some time now.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about him and where he's going in his career. We've got some footage of him. We know that, I would say that he's got real power in his shots as well. But I'll let you talk to me about it. He's your fighter. You know him better than anybody else.
As I said, very technically gifted, very strong, aggressive but in an educated way. Got good height on him for his weight.
Agreed.
His shots are very technical, beautiful to watch. He's very precise with his shots. Rarely you see him missing the target. It's always perfect, his shots. But you're going to see a different animal going forward. He's had some, personal stuff going on in his life. I'm not going to bring that up, but he's had some personal stuff. But all I'm saying is, the next person that gets in that ring with him,
problems.
Yeah, definitely problems.
But we're going to move on to George.
Gorgeous George, yeah.
Yeah, talk to me about George. I mean, we saw the drills, we saw what you put him through, and I'm going to say two things about him.
Yeah.
Engine and feet.
Yeah. Well, the thing about George is very enjoyable to train, he is, because he's what I call an all-round fighter. He can dance, he's got slick head movement, he can walk you down, he can go to war. I've seen it in spars. If someone starts running their mouth to him, he's like, come on then, let's go. So he's got that side of him as well, which you wouldn't expect, where he can go to war. He can stay in the pocket, and he's comfortable with catching shots and shooting shots. He's an all-round fighter. I'm not going to say complete, because it's my job to make him complete.
It almost sounds like, and I know it's quite cold to look at it like this, but it's almost like an investment. You're looking at a stock, an investment, and saying, okay, we're going to purchase this, we're going to get hold of this, and we're going to develop that. Yeah. And in a few years' time, it's going to give us such a return, a massive return. I know it's kind of like a cold way, but I get it. And that's why you have to be fussy about who you bring in.
Don't get me wrong, I'm open. I'm there to give advice to everyone.
But you ain't gonna invite them in and train them though.
Even on social media.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, social media. I don't even know you. If you DM me and ask me a question, or can I have some tips on this, I always answer that person. That's the kind of person I love.
But you ain't training everyone,
share my knowledge. Yeah, but when it comes down to who I want to train to become a professional fighter, or if you are a professional fighter, then yeah, you have to really show me something where I'm going to really give my time and dedicate my life to you. And I'm not stupid. As a trainer, you don't have contracts with these fighters. They can get up tomorrow and leave. They're their own bosses, you know what I mean? But I hope with what I bring to the table, how I am as a person and how I am with the fighter, because I don't just train them, I guide them.
Mentally,
even outside the gym, I try to advise them with, you know, invest in your money. You know what I mean?
Life skills.
Life skills. I try to give that because the experiences I had, some of them were mistakes, you know, but those mistakes have made me a better coach.
We're going to pause it here, and I'm not even going to say we're going to end it here. We're going to pause it here because there's plenty more to talk about. Plenty more to talk about. What can I say? Thank you for your time. Thanks for always letting us come into the gym and film your fighters.
No problem. Yeah. I'm not just George and Jamal. I've got obviously the superstar in the making, Martin Foru.
Yeah.
You know, I've got a load of other fighters. You know.
And your baby brother.
Adam Hamid. You know what I mean? Got him. He's coming back soon as well. So
we'll have to get in and sort that one out as well.
Yeah. Ronnie.
Yeah.
You've talked to Ronnie before.
Lovely Ronnie. Yeah.
And Frankie, little Frankie, my protege there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're building a nice, tidy, tight, chosen stable.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I don't want to be one of those coaches coaching 10 fighters.
What's the point? They ain't going to get the best out of you, are they?
I need to give they need individual time.
Yeah, and we know that you graft hard. But listen, October Red Boxing, here with Daley Perales. We've paused it for now.
Yeah.
It will continue again soon. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Hi, and thank you for watching October Red Boxing. Like, subscribe, and tap the bell for notifications. You can also find us on Instagram at October Red Boxing and on Twitter, October Red UK. And remember, at October Red, we stay ready.